Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're wading into the world of international finance, specifically Singapore and their recent crackdown on money laundering.
You guys send us some really interesting stuff on this, and I gotta say, it's pretty wild. We're talking billions of dollars seized, luxury goods, the whole nine yards.
So, to help us unpack all of this, we've got with us a real expert in financial crime, someone who can, break down these regulatory frameworks.
Right. Yeah.
Now, we all know Singapore, right? Famous for being business friendly, a real global hub, but, and this is a big but, that same environment can, unfortunately, attract some, let's say, less than legitimate actors.
Definitely. It's a tough balance.
Exactly. It's like walking a tightrope, trying to keep the economy booming while keeping everything, squeaky clean.
Yeah, it's that classic risk versus reward, right? Singapore's worked incredibly hard to build this reputation, this image of stability, a place where people can trust their money safe.
And it's working. They've done a great job.
Absolutely. But that very same stability, well, it can be a huge draw for, shall we say, those looking to park some funds that were maybe acquired
Hmm.
outside of the law.
Yeah, acquired being the operative word there. And just so everyone listening is on the same page, let's define money laundering super quick, plain and simple. We're talking about taking dirty money, illegally obtained money, and making it look clean, right?
Exactly. That's the gist of it. And we're not talking about hiding a few $100 under a mattress. This is serious money. Billions flowing through these, like, intricate networks.
Right. And it's often used to fund some pretty nasty stuff. But what really caught my eye, what made me go, whoa, this is big, was this case from August 2023. Over $3 billion seized, 10 arrests, luxury cars, you name it.
Yeah, that one definitely made headlines. What was crazy was just the sheer variety of stuff they grabbed. Luxury real estate, high-end cars, even, get this, a rare whiskey collection.
Whiskey. Wow. Talk about high-end money laundering. But it sounds like Singapore got the message, right? Like this was a wake-up call.
You could say that. It definitely exposed some gaps in their defenses, let's call them.
Makes sense. So what'd they do? How'd they react?
Well, they took it seriously. They've got this new strategy, kind of like if you imagine a castle, right? They're reinforcing the walls, they're adding more guards, and let's be clear, anyone trying to get over those walls, yeah, there are consequences now.
Oh, yeah. They're not messing around. Okay, so walk us through this castle strategy. Where do they even start?
Well, first, they realized it's not just about the banks, right? They're important, but it's bigger than that. They expanded who they consider a gatekeeper.
Gatekeepers, interesting. So who are we talking about?
Banks, for sure, but also lawyers, real estate agents, even folks dealing in high-end goods like art, jewelry, that sort of thing. Anyone who might, come into contact with this kind of money.
So it's about widening the net, making sure nothing slips through.
Exactly. These gatekeepers, they've got way stricter rules now. You got to verify who their clients are, where their money's coming from, the whole nine yards. And if anything seems off, they're obligated to report it.
No more looking the other way, huh?
Nope. And get this, they even expanded what falls under precious products, needing this super close look.
Precious products. So we're not just talking diamonds and gold bars anymore.
Right. It used to be all about the traditional stuff. But now we're talking anything luxury, anything over $20,000.
Yeah.
Could be a fancy watch, a rare painting, you name it.
Wow, they're not messing around. It's like they're saying, if you want to play in this sandbox, you better be prepared to prove where you got your toys.
Yeah, you could say that. And it's not just about luxury goods either. They're tightening the screws on casinos, too.
Ah, casinos, right. Those have always been a bit of a well.
Yeah, let's just say they've been known to attract some unsavory types. So they're lowering the thresholds for scrutiny on cash transactions, making it much harder to move large sums of money under the radar.
Smart move. So it sounds like they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve, proactively closing any potential loopholes.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you so far. They're definitely making it harder for the bad guys to slip in unnoticed. But what about catching the ones who are already there? The ones who are already up to no good? How do they find them?
Right, so that's where the detection part of their strategy comes in. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I love interesting. Lay it on me.
Well, it all comes down to information.
All right. Yeah.
Sharing what you know. Think of it like putting together a puzzle. One agency might have a few pieces, but until everyone shares what they've got, you don't see the whole picture.
Makes sense, yeah. So they're all comparing notes. What, like some kind of international crime-fighting database?
Kind of, yeah. They've got this new platform. It's called Cosmic, and it lets banks share info on any suspicious activity in real time.
Whoa, hold on. Real time. So, like, as it's
You
happening.
got it. It's all connected. So let's say one bank flags a transaction. Something seems fishy. They put it into Cosmic, and boom, other banks can see it too. Maybe they've got a piece of the puzzle that completes the picture.
So it's like this digital web, right?
No.
Specifically designed to catch those shady financial transactions.
You got it. It helps them connect the dots way faster, see patterns they might have missed before. And that's not all. They're also working on this other system. It's called Navigate. It's still in development. But basically, it'll let different agencies, not just banks, quickly cross-check data.
So if someone's trying to pull a fast one, trying to hide their tracks, it'll be way harder.
Exactly. It's all about making Singapore a much riskier place to try and launder money. But here's the thing. Even if they prevent it, even if they detect it, none of that matters unless...
Unless there are consequences.
Bingo! And let
Okay.
me tell you, Singapore is not messing around. They've made the penalties for money laundering way tougher. Individuals, corporations, everyone. We're talking massive fines. They can seize your assets, even jail time.
Okay, so the message is clear. Try to launder money in Singapore and you are going down.
You got it. And it's not just the criminals themselves. Remember those gatekeepers we talked about?
Yeah, the lawyers, real estate agents, the ones who are supposed to be keeping an eye out.
Right. Well, they're being held accountable too. Negligence is not an excuse anymore. If they
Very
turn a
true.
blind eye, if they don't do their due diligence, they face the music as well. Big fines. They can even lose their licenses.
Wow, so they're really serious about this. But I gotta ask, with all these layers, all this complexity, how do they ever actually untangle these money laundering schemes? I mean, we're talking about some seriously sophisticated operations, right? Multiple countries, shell companies, the whole nine yards.
You're telling me. It's like trying to track a ghost through a maze. But that's where understanding things like shell companies and nominee directors comes in.
Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart.
Well-
Break it down for us. What are those?
Okay. So a shell company, it's basically an empty shell. It exists on paper, might even have a bank account, but no real business activity, no employees, nothing.
So it's a front, a way to hide what's really going on.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Criminals love them. They can funnel money through these shell companies, make it almost impossible to trace where it really came from.
Sneaky. And what about those, what were they called? Nominee directors.
Right. So those are people who agreed to be listed as the director of a company. They put their name on the documents, but they don't actually control anything. They're just a puppet.
A puppet paid to take the fall.
Pretty much. It's all about keeping the real masterminds hidden in the shadows.
Wow, it's like something out of a movie. So how does Singapore even begin to deal with that?
Well, they're getting smarter. They've got stricter rules for these nominee directors now, and companies have to disclose who their beneficial owners are.
Beneficial owners, meaning the real people in control, the ones actually profiting, right?
Exactly. And to keep track of all that, they've got this beneficial ownership registry. It's like a database, lets authorities see through all those layers, all those shell companies and fake directors, and figure out who's really pulling the strings.
Okay, so it's like they're shining a light on all those dark corners, those places where the criminals like to hide.
Exactly. It's all about transparency, making it much harder to get away with financial shenanigans.
I like the sound of that. But all of this, I mean, it sounds expensive, time-consuming, all this extra scrutiny. Doesn't that make it harder for legitimate businesses, too?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something we definitely need to talk about because while Singapore is doing a lot to clean up its act, there are always potential downsides, unintended consequences.
Right, so unintended consequences. We've got to talk about those. I
Yeah.
mean, you're trying to stop the bad guys, but what about everyone else just trying to run their businesses, do things the right way?
Yeah, it's a real balancing act. And honestly, some folks are worried. More regulations, more scrutiny. It often means more costs for businesses, especially the smaller guys.
Right, paperwork, compliance, all that fun stuff. Nobody likes that.
Exactly. And it can be a lot to handle,
Yeah.
especially if you're a startup, just getting off the ground operating on tight margins.
Makes sense. So what's the solution? How do you strike that balance? Tough enough to deter the criminals, but not so much that you're crushing the little guy.
It's a tough one, for sure. I mean, ideally, you want regulations that are, strong, effective, but also clear and, straightforward as possible.
Mm.
You don't want businesses drowning in red tape.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not just about the money either, right? All this extra scrutiny, it takes time, and time is money too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Think about it. International transactions, moving money around,
Yep.
it all takes longer, with these new checks and balances in place. And delays. Delays can really hurt a business, especially if you're dealing with global supply chains.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a nightmare. It's like you're trying to get your product to market, but the money's stuck in limbo somewhere, caught up in some anti-money laundering dragnet. Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And it's not just businesses that might feel the pinch. Regular folks, too. If you're dealing with larger sums of money, you might notice, let's just say, a little more attention from your bank.
Oh, yeah, suddenly you're public enemy number one just because you got a big deposit.
Right. Opening a new account, making a big purchase, even inheriting some money, it might require a few more hoops to jump through, more paperwork, more explanations.
I guess that's the trade-off, right? More security, less convenience. It's like airport security. Nobody likes the long lines, but everyone wants to know the plane's safe.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. But look, let's zoom out a bit, right?
Yeah.
We've been laser focused on Singapore this whole time, but this is way bigger than one country. The global thing, this fight against dirty money.
Right, it's like they say money talks, and it talks all over the world. So what does it mean then? Singapore getting tough? Is that like a sign of things to come?
I think so, yeah. They're kind of leading the charge, showing the world they're serious about this. And when a major financial hub like Singapore makes a move, people notice other countries, they start feeling the pressure to up their game too.
Oh, yeah, nobody wants to be the weakest link, right? The place where all the criminals go to do their business.
Exactly. So yeah, I think we're going to see this ripple effect. More countries tightening their regulations, sharing more information, working together to close those loopholes.
Makes sense. Because like we said, it's a global problem. Got to have a global solution.
100%. One country alone, they can't do it all. Money laundering, it's like this slippery octopus, right? Always trying to find a way in, a crack in the system, some place where they can operate in the shadows.
Right, and as soon as you close one loophole, they find another one. So what does it all mean? We've covered a lot of ground here. What are the key takeaways? What should our listeners, what should they be thinking about?
Great question. For me, it boils down to this. Be informed. The more you know about how this stuff works, how money laundering happens, the signs, the red flags, the better you are.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
Protect yourself, protect your business.
Exactly. Businesses, make sure you're following the rules, do your due diligence, be careful who you're doing business with, and if something feels off, trust your gut. Individuals, too, be careful with your personal information. Don't fall for those too good to be true schemes, that sort of thing.
Common sense, basically. But if you do see something, say something. Right.
100%. It might feel insignificant when you're reporting something small, but you never know. It could be that missing piece of the puzzle, the thing that helps bring down a whole criminal network.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. It's a reminder that, this isn't just a job for the government or the banks. We all have a role to play. We can all help make a difference.
Totally. And, this whole conversation, it highlights something really important. Fighting money laundering. Yeah, it's complex, it's technical, all that.
Yeah.
But at its core, it's about protecting something much bigger. It's about making sure our financial system is fair, it's transparent, it works for everyone, not just the criminals.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. It's about creating a system we can all trust, a system that benefits everyone. Well, I gotta say, this deep dive has been eye-opening. Money laundering, it's a shadowy world. But now, at least, it feels a little less mysterious, a little less intimidating.
I'm glad to hear that.
So to our listeners, thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Keep those questions coming, keep learning, and most importantly, stay curious. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive, signing off.